Welcome to Embracing Life Again. I'm Catherine Kaufer, transition expert and minister. Together, we'll break through life's toughest barriers, rediscover joy, and start dreaming again. It's time to embrace life fully with purpose, passion, and hope. Welcome to Embracing Life Again. I'm Catherine Kaufer, your host, and I'm here with my daughter Janelle Kaufer, and we are going to be talking about who am I without you. But before I do that, I wanted to let you know what the show is about, and it's about inspiration through life's transitions, and I work on getting you unstuck and through any trauma or loss to find joy and dream again. So the other thing I want to tell you about is stay tuned, because the last 10 minutes of the show, I have adventures with Zebedee and Theo, and those are my pet therapy animals, and you watch them in action or in everyday life, and everybody just loves that. So please stay tuned and keep watching. So I wanted to introduce my daughter Janelle Kaufer. She is a high school Spanish teacher. I don't know why I just went blank on you. Yeah, so she's been doing it for 8 years now.
This is my 8th year, yeah.
Yeah, 8 years teaching, and she loves it. And she loves the Spanish culture, and she may be talking about that a little bit with regards to when we talk about finding our identity and our purpose again, right? Her adventures in Spain. So let's dig in. So who am I without you? That was a tough question for me. I remember going through it, but it's a harder topic. It's a deeper topic, and my daughter is great to help me because she'll be asking me questions, so it triggers me as to how I can help you think of things. And I want you to come away with at least 3 things that you can do to start finding out who you are without whoever you've lost or whatever you have lost. It doesn't necessarily have to be a person, right? It could be a job. It could be a pet, a home. Right now, a home, that's not even a good subject right now with all the loss that people have been experiencing with the hurricane. So anyway, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. And so, Miss Janelle, she's going to be talking about losing it from the dad side, and I will be talking about it as to losing it from being a widow, a husband's side. And so I wanted to start with her, and then she'll probably egg me so I remember. So one of the questions people have is, how did you find out who you were without them or without what you've lost? Do you remember? Dad's been gone for 9 years now, and so I remember when you found out. You had come in from the airport.
Oh, I still see that in my, I can see it so clearly. It was a Tuesday.
Oh, wow. I don't remember. Yes, yeah, it was a Tuesday.
It was a Tuesday. It was Cinco de Mayo. My friends and I were planning to go out for tacos, Taco Tuesday. And you called me and you said, hey, the first thing was talking about our dog, because at the same time, our dog had throat cancer.
Our dog Snickers was, we were expecting her to go, because she was failing. But we were not, we were expecting that we knew Dad was in an accident, and they told me he's stable, just get here. I was expecting a long recovery. I was not expecting him to be dead, and I wasn't going to tell them on the phone anyway.
No, and so we got on the first flight as possible, and I just remember sitting on that flight thinking, okay, it's going to be a long recovery. I have all summer. I'm a college student. I'm still okay. Mm-hmm. And just crying And but the biggest thing, like, I remember on that was I felt God holding me. Like, I was just being hugged, like, that whole flight. And I was like, probably people are thinking I'm crazy. This girl's just crying on the flight the whole time. And I remember being picked up and going and talking to my aunt and my cousin and like, okay, I'm gonna help them do this, this, and this, and they already knew. And
yeah, they couldn't say anything.
I know, yeah. And then we walked in the entryway, and you took me and my sister and huddled us and told us, at this time your dad passed. And so, yeah, no, I see that whole montage in my head very, very clearly still.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I remember. And the hardest thing was for them is the doctor said, please do not let your girls see him this way. They need to remember him for how he was.
Right.
And it was great for Janelle. She was okay with that.
Yeah.
But her younger sister was not. She's more of a doubting Thomas that needs to just, feel the holes and see that it's happening. And I didn't know that. I mean, I kind of knew that, but I didn't know how much it would affect her. So if you have kids that may have lost something, would you have known? If I had asked you, okay, and I already said, the doctor says you don't want to see him, right?
I don't think I would have wanted to see him.
But you would have known, right?
Yeah.
And I think your sister would have said, I need to see him.
Correct. And I think it's more of like, and I don't like the belief in like, do I believe you telling me that?
True.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's another whole other thing. But I think for me too, compared to my sister, was like, I saw him recently. I had just had a really cool trip with him.
It's true.
Right. So and then I talked to him the night before. So like, I don't know. So I think I was in a really good spot with him when it all went down.
Right.
But it definitely, like, I don't know, because I know you're talking about like the moment, but I think there's been a whole shift of like my life with dad and then without dad. Like, I'm a completely different person now.
Now you are.
Yes.
Right. So when we're going through the grieving process, do you remember, did you feel like you had lost, did you feel like you had to find yourself again?
I think for me, though, it was just more of a numbness. Like, I felt so numb. I remember sitting on the couch and sleeping. That was like the first month or something. I mean, I didn't do much. I had to figure out my finals because he died right when my finals happened for my college degree.
These poor girls had to go back to school for their finals right after their dad had died. And I think you stayed with me for a month. And then you had to go back.
No, I stayed 6 weeks, and then I had to go back and take a class in July. So I don't even remember that class, to be honest. I was in such a fog. Yeah. So like knowing the identity, I don't think that came right away. That came later. Okay. It wasn't it is, who am I without my dad? He was one of my rocks. He's the one person I talked to, and
he was the glue.
Yeah. And
he was totally the glue.
Yeah. And so I think like missing that and not knowing like I had to shift, like, okay, who am I going to go tell things to? And I think like it made us closer. Because I didn't have my other parent. And so then I started going to you for the things I'd go to dad for.
Right.
So
it became mom and dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a whole other
thing. I was going to say, that's another thing you probably do another good half an hour on.
I could probably do that one
too.
Yeah. That's hard to be just the one parent, that you have to do both angles.
Right. And I know Megan and I weren't very young. Like, we're young.
They were both in college.
But we're both in college, at least, like we were starting out our new lives. We were kind of figuring things out, who we were, what we were planning to do with our lives. Yeah. And I made my big decision to become a teacher like a month before my dad died. So
well, at least you got to tell him.
Yeah, no. And so that's like the one thing like I keep thinking is like, okay, my dad always knew that like this is, and he was like, oh, you're going to be so good. He was like, I'm so proud of you.
Yeah. She was in pre-med.
No, yeah.
And then Kim did her in. She's like, I'm not doing this.
I'm done. Yeah, so and then I wasn't sure who I was for a while there in college and figuring it out. And you guys did a really great job of just encouraging me to find my passion.
Right.
And my passion didn't change with dad dying. It just kind of, maybe it cemented it. Like,
Wow.
it would have been, if I changed my mind again and did a different career, my dad wouldn't know.
Well, he knows.
Oh yeah, but
He knows. Um, so I'm thinking of the three things I did. And of course, there's time that you just have to just be
yes,
and just grieve. And then it comes to the question like, who am I without you?
right,
So I do remember, and it's not, I'm not going to say it's a spooky thing, but I did have 3 visions with him after he died. And I did find between my 2 daughters, if you're open to it, you usually will see,
yes,
you will see him in dreams, you can see him in visions. And the one thing, I had one vision with him um, right after. And then I had another vision when he came around the bed and he kneeled down, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know who I am, because I've known him since I was 15. I had no idea.
right,
I mean, I knew who we were together.
yeah,
But now that we're gone, now he's gone, I had to do my whole identity.
yes,
Whereas you've been single,
right,
right?
yeah,
And went to
didn't have
college,
to-
so you
yeah,
understood, right?
yes.
I graduated college and then
Got married,
I got married. So it was different.
yes,
And because I never did the deep dive of who I am.
right,
So when he's sitting and when he's kneeling there, I'm like, tell me, who am I without you? And
Right.
that was my question.
yeah,
And that's why this one was this show was harder for me. I needed her help.
right,
Because it was harder. And he's like, just be you,
right,
be obedient to God.
hmm
And oh my gosh, now I forgot the third one.
Was
No,
it the I'm just right here? No,
that's it. Oh my gosh. Okay. So he goes, whenever you are sad, whenever you are lonely, just know he takes my hand and my hand disappears. So he's like right here and my hand disappears. I'm like, oh, it's just a different dimension,
right,
right?
yeah,
So he's still around. We can't see him,
Right.
hear him, but he's still there. And I just know he's up there
cheering us on.
cheering us on,
Yeah.
praying for us.
Yeah,
And every once in a while I'll say, hey, you need to talk. You need to talk to your daughters. So, I mean, that is one thing I did do is I'll ask him every once in a while. But one thing I did is I prayed a lot as to, okay, God, who did you make me? And that was important to me because I have a certain belief, right?
hmm
So so that was the one thing that I did a lot of. And then the second thing was like, what makes me happy? And I don't think you can do that right off the bat.
No,
Because
no.
you're too
Heartbroken.
heartbroken,
Yeah.
sad, numb,
hmm
you're
Yeah.
all those things. And so so then I found my horse, my dog, walking in
Yep.
nature,
Yeah.
going to the beach, going on trying to go on vacation, but it is harder.
You
It
started
is.
reading.
I started reading more.
Yep. That was a big deal because I'm a huge reader. So I've
Okay,
been
I
trying
am
to...
not a big reader because I was told I was dyslexic and I stayed back in first grade,
Right.
right? So when you're labeled like that, it's very hard to
overcome.
yeah. I don't even listen to audio books. So now I am reading more
Right.
and trying to get over that. You can't read fast.
Right.
And then it's funny because I grew out of it.
Yes.
So I can read. I can read fast and I can write fast. It's just that mental block.
It's a mental hurdle. Yeah.
It's a mental hurdle that I had to get over.
But I don't think like it's not it took a long time for you to be okay without dad. It wasn't just an instant hey, I'm good. Let's go out
We're
and
good,
do
let's
things.
go. Yeah.
I mean, I think for you it took a good year, I would say. And
Oh, yeah.
then for me as well, like a good year until we kind of felt like our feet solidly on the ground and, you know, getting on track.
Right.
So I think that was your, I would say it takes a while. So I don't want people to like watch this and think, oh yeah, this is just an instant. I'm gonna go back to the things I like and the things I
Not.
love, and it's not. And then some things change. Like I don't bike anymore because
Well, we both don't.
right.
I used to cycle with him, and I
Mhm.
don't cycle anymore.
Right.
You
I
don't-
haven't picked up a bike since. I
Nope.
won't even touch one.
Nope.
You know, so that's like one of the little things. Like I used to do that, but
Yeah.
so I think that's important for
I
people.
still have
to
my
know.
bike hanging up. It's
Yeah.
gonna remain there for
I
a
don't
little
even have one.
Well, I will only ride it like
Yeah.
for some reason if the power goes out and I can't do my car.
Right.
I have
That
it
makes
there
sense.
just in case I need to go
I'm
somewhere.
just gonna walk everywhere.
Well, probably with everybody else, right?
Yeah. Right.
Right. So with that, did you struggle in feeling lost and purposeless?
I think feeling lost, not purposeless, because at least like I like, you know, I didn't want it to happen, but it couldn't like.
Right.
I was working towards something. I knew what I was going to, and I think having a goal in mind and knowing what I was working through really helped me not feel purposeless.
Mm-hmm.
But I do remember feeling lost. Like my car broke down and like started breaking down crying because like, oh my gosh, I don't have my dad to call to be like, hey, what do I do to fix this?
Right.
So it's like the little things. Like it's like itty bitty things that like catch you. Like, you know, I saw something, oh, my dad would have loved this. Or and so I don't know if it's a feeling of lost. It's more of a feeling of loss. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know because I know for you your purpose was being a wife, one of them.
One of them.
And that was something, you know, you guys worked really hard on your marriage.
Yeah.
That was one thing that was very, very obvious. And I think when you lost him, you guys were in a good spot.
We were in a really good place.
And I think like you lost your purpose there, and that kind of like, yeah, I'm still mom, but now I don't have this person that's been my partner for more in my life and not.
Correct. Yeah.
So how did you know? You probably I'm putting this on you, but you probably felt the loss of purpose in the being a wife. How did that like? What comes to mind when you think of that?
It's funny because yes.
Yes.
It relieved me in some things.
Yes.
But didn't relieve me in others because you have the same. Actually, both my girls, we have servants' hearts. Mm-hmm. We love to serve and
help and be there for people and yeah.
Right. So with them gone,
right,
that was the harder part.
Mm-hmm.
When you were there, it was easier because I had
you had me to take care of.
I could still do my servant's heart thing, yes. Right? So if you're wondering who's moaning down here, it's Theo. It's Theo. Let me bring him in.
Oh, he's not gonna be happy about this.
We're gonna see if he likes this or not. Anyway, so you're gonna see him later. But this is Theo. Anyway, so he came into our lives 2 weeks after George died.
Yeah.
Yep. And so he was a huge part of it.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Having a puppy to take care of also helps you have some purpose. Like right when everything happened. Not that you need to go get a puppy when you lose something, but it definitely helped.
Right.
Yeah.
It did help a lot because just they normally cuddle you anyway.
Yeah.
And you just don't feel so alone.
But I also think that, he was part of grief. Like that was what he came into.
That's all he knows.
It's all he knows, and he knows the big feelings, and he learned to just cuddle us and love on us, and I think that really helped him as he became a therapy dog.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yep. He's a cutie McPutie. Yes. Yes. Anyway, so going back to the feeling lost or loss. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing too is like, my dad was a phone call away. He wasn't with me every day. I didn't see, like, I went and saw you guys once a month probably. Like, so I was still seeing you quite often, but you had him there every day. So
Right.
having that, like, not have somebody to come home to or have someone come home to you, I think that was a huge shift for you.
It was.
So how'd you, like, I know it took you a while, but what did you start doing to make you be okay? I know you're still working through the loneliness thing right now.
Right.
You know, being
Right.
single and without somebody can be really difficult.
Right. So
And so what did you do? Because I know it's different now, but what did you do then, that you would you have changed anything?
yes.
Okay.
The one thing I would have changed is I still had therapy,
Right.
but I also would have changed and really looked at being codependent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I realized after that I was somewhat codependent
Mm-hmm.
and I was a pleaser.
Yep.
And so I wish I had worked through that
First.
first.
You mean like right after Dad died, or you mean
No,
while
no,
Dad
no,
was
no.
still alive?
Well, I didn't get it until he died.
Right.
I didn't understand that I was that. I worked on the pleasing part.
Yeah, I think
when
you did.
when he was here. But I didn't work on the codependency part.
It's been a while. Yeah. I mean,
Right?
you're
And
still working through it.
I
sometimes.
am now, but what
Yeah.
happened was I started dating, and guess what happened?
You.
I went right back into
Yeah.
that codependency part, and instead of, so anyway, so that one didn't work out.
That's okay.
But it was harder the second time because you realize what you didn't work on the first time.
It comes into your second marriage.
You don't think that it's going
Right.
to. You think, oh no, I'm good. Everything's changed.
Right.
But I swear, as soon as I got remarried, a lot of my stuff came back.
Yeah.
A lot of my
and
stuff
I remember
came
you
back.
talking a lot through
I'm
that.
like, oh my gosh, I'm like, right?
Yeah, because your biggest thing is you're still single. Work on all these things before you get married.
Right. So I'm making her.
She's making me go through stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So, but I mean, because we're still on the whole loss and purposeless. Did you feel like you lost a purpose when you lost your husband? Or was it just you lost part of who you were and then now you have to redefine what your purpose is?
The second part. I mean, so I already knew that when you're 2 weeks before your dad died,
yeah,
he says, don't you know God's setting you up for your ministry? So I always knew I was supposed to have Theo and Zebedee, right? Be therapy, but I didn't know what.
Right.
What was I going to teach? What was I going to help people with? And it wasn't till I went through the loss. Okay, you get down now. It wasn't until I went through the loss that I realized, oh, and then I hear in my spirit, you're going to teach people to grieve well, because we don't grieve well.
No,
no one teaches how to grieve well.
And so I think other cultures do a little better, a better job.
Such a better job.
In the United States, we're definitely, I had somebody in July tell me we were out. That was like my first time going out, and goes, aren't you over your dad's death yet? 2 months after my dad died, and I stopped being friends with that person because you have no empathy for what I'm going through. And I think people just are like, oh, it happened, okay, move on, because that's kind of what a lot of we do. We just kind of shove the emotions down and move forward.
And we learned that people that, I'm going to say, did not have a good relationship with whoever died, they have regrets.
Yes.
and it's so much harder to grieve,
Correct.
and they just push it down
And keep pushing,
and keep
and then it
pushing.
comes out in really bad times,
Bad ways.
to be honest. Yeah. And you can see that with various family members, like depending on
Right.
how their relationship was with my dad, was how they've taken the grief. Some have done very well, and others are still kind of stuck, and
it's been 9 years.
it's been 9
And
years.
they're still stuck, or some of them are still
Yes.
stuck. Not
not
everyone.
everybody,
Not
but
everyone.
we're stuck in a certain way.
Correct.
I wouldn't say like stuck in their lives. I would just say like maybe stuck in like their attitude.
They haven't learned. Well, they've been grateful for what they had, but
Right.
then
But it's embracing joy again, because I
Right.
think that's the biggest thing, is when you lose somebody, it's soul crushing, it's heartbreaking. Like there's nothing like it. I mean, this was my first. I mean, yeah, I had a great aunt die, but my dad's death was the first death I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
And so it was, where's my, like, as we're children of God, we're called to be joyful, and we're supposed to shine a light wherever we go. And I just remember being in a fog and not feeling like I'm shining a light. So it's like, how do you find your joy again after you have this, life-changing event, like any kind of event, right? Like there's key moments, I think, in your life that define who you are going to become as God's child. Like, God doesn't make us go through heartbreak for no reason.
Right.
He gives us, we have a purpose. Like he's molding us to who we need to be to serve him here. So yeah, I lost my dad, and it really sucks, and some days are harder than others. Sometimes I feel guilty because I'm still so joyful, like, and I still think about my dad, but I'm not sad anymore.
Well, we know it. Well, we know he's in
we know yeah I know I'm going to see him again, so I think that's a huge. But I think, like when I hear from others, like, oh yeah, I think about your, dad every day, and I, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, and I don't know, like that just kind of makes me like sad. Like how, so I know, the joy is a purpose, I guess, right? It's my purpose. I'm here.
It is our purpose. Yeah.
So how did you reconnect with your joy?
A lot of it was my faith.
Yeah.
A lot of it was my faith in knowing that God's going to turn this into good. I didn't know how. Trust me. I did not know how. And then just having thing after thing. I mean, I haven't even touched on how much I've been through.
Yeah.
And then I still have joy, and I'm supposed to teach it to you guys. Yeah. And boy, if I knew that this was part of me becoming the person he needs me to be, becoming and doing my purpose,
right,
I may have said no.
Right? It's hard.
I may have said no, I don't want to do that, but everything we go through, there's a reason, and we may not know it until you look in the back mirror and go, oh, unfortunately I had to experience that, but
so
now it's molded me and made me into who I am today.
Yep.
So I can be that person that people need,
right,
when they're going through their struggles.
Yes.
Right?
And I think,
and help them.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've had many students that have lost a parent or something.
So you know how to
and
talk
so
to them.
for me, that's been a, like, as much as I don't want to be able to connect with them on that, like I get it in a different way than maybe a different teacher wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of opened some doors there with building relationships with kids that really have struggled because they lost a person. Right. Very important, not necessarily their dad, but could be, a mom, a grandparent or something.
It's anybody, anything, even a pet.
Right. Oh yeah.
Because pets,
absolutely.
Like she has a dog that that is her baby. I mean,
yeah, he's my baby.
So I don't want anything to happen to him. Right? No. So,
no.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think the joy. I think that's. I think when I define that as my purpose here, Because if I look at my purpose as being a teacher and like that's what I'm here to do, yeah, but then it takes up too much of my identity. So I'm trying to
Well, a lot of people
use
put
it
their identity
in
in
their job.
their job or what they do.
Right.
And then if they lose it,
what do I do now?
who am I?
Right.
Right. It's the same question.
Correct.
Who am I? Who am I not being this?
Right.
Right. And so they have to go through the self-discovery and figuring out what they like and
right. And I'm working through that because for a while there, because it was here's my purpose, this is what I'm gonna go do. I'm gonna go be a teacher. Like that's where I put all my efforts in as part of my grief, I think. And you know, for a while my job takes a lot of my time. But I'm really working on trying to separate my identity from my job at least.
Right.
So it's hard.
It is hard.
Yeah.
So how did you reconnect back into life and your interests? Like when you went back to college,
yeah.
How were your friends? Did you do more things with them? Did you?
Well, by that time, a lot of my really good friends from college had already moved away.
Oh. That's when you're your master's?
Yeah, I was getting my master's.
Okay.
So I had, a few good friends here and there. I had my church and they were amazing. Really came and rallied around me.
Right.
But I don't think like I really found my interest until I went and walked 500 miles across Spain.
Right. So you can tell them that,
well,
kind of a shorter version.
Yeah. So because we're running out of time. The Camino de Santiago is a very famous walk pilgrimage through Spain, where in the past people used to do it as a way to repent and go repent and seek God. And I found out about it before my dad died. My dad and I were planning to go do it together when I graduated. And so then I decided that I was going to go do it in his honor. And so I ended up walking about 35 days across Spain, about 10 to 16 miles a day. And every day I picked one spot that I'd want to share with him. And I was like, okay, this is what I want to share. And I would just take a moment to honor him, and then I'd keep walking. So having that and just having time to be with God and just disconnect honestly from the world.
You do disconnect from the world.
Yeah. I think, not everybody has that chance, but I really think that's what kind of reconnected me and put me back into, okay, now I can be a service like a normal human that's, yes, I'm still grieving, but my grief, the pain, the unbearable, like feeling inside, like totally disappeared. I mean, God just was like, I've got you, you're healed. And that was like just a huge heat, washed over me, and I felt it. And I was like, so I no longer have this despair, this anguish. It was, okay, I really miss my dad, but I'm okay. And I so I think that's what really reconnected me back with life. And not everybody can do that.
Right. So part of that is I met you on the Camino because I could not take off.
You couldn't take off a whole month.
No. So I met you for about 10 days.
I thought it was the last 5 days you did with me.
No, I walked with you.
Yes, 5 days.
For 5, but I think because I went to Madrid and then
you took
a train to go meet you.
And then we had 3 days
and then we had Barcelona.
No, we went back to Madrid.
We went back
so you could go home. Madrid.
Yeah. So I did 70 miles.
Yeah, you walked 70 miles.
I walked 70. And that's the last part of the Camino, and then you end up at a church. Is it where James or John is buried?
I think it's supposed to be James. It's his body. I don't know. So they carried the remains, and that's where the pilgrimage goes. Is it John or is it James?
I think it's John.
I think you might be right. I know.
I need to
go look that up. Yeah. We'll do a fact check later.
Sorry.
But I mean, I think the thing that like resonated with you most there was you're supposed to bring something from home to let go. So I picked a rock from our front. What would you call that?
We had a river rock bed
that my dad and I we worked on. So I took a rock with me from there and I walked with it until I was ready to let it go.
Yes.
And you did the same thing.
I brought a rock also.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you let go of
And I let go and I threw it in
a stream, right?
in a stream.
Yeah.
Because I just remember the peace
Yeah.
and the quiet and
the just being.
and just being while you're on the trail, and you meet people, right?
And you talk and you
So
share
you
stories.
can look at the movie
Yeah.
The Way. That's about the Camino de Santiago, but not all of it's real. I mean, it is a movie.
Yes.
But it's great. You get the gist of it. So while I'm walking, wasn't the last day.
Maybe I think it was like 2 days before the last day. Was it? It was before I hurt my knee.
Right.
So yeah, that would have been like.
And talk about that.
days.
Oh my gosh. So anyway, so God's like, is the rock heavy yet? Are you ready to let it go?
Right.
I'm like, oh yeah, I guess so.
Right.
So then that's when I'm like, okay, I'll, because he had me put rocks in both pockets.
Yeah.
Kind of showing me my cares, right? The cares I'm holding on to,
not giving to God.
and not giving to him.
Yeah.
So then I threw them
Right.
into the river, and it was just like
A release.
what? Oh my gosh! So
No, I was gonna say the moment, because I got to leave mine at this little hill with a cross, so I got the symbolism of leaving all your, and I actually wrote on it because the biggest thing I had to let go was my grief.
Yes.
And so I did write, my dad's name on it, and then I wrote him a little something about like how much I miss him, and then I left it there at the cross.
Okay, so how many rocks do you think are by that cross?
Thousands. I mean, it just makes this giant pile.
Giant hill. You walked.
I had to walk up a hill to leave it at the cross.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was, I mean, it's huge.
Right. It's really cool.
And it's so cool. So if you guys
you
ever get an opportunity, I missed that, but I'm not missing it again because
we'll go back.
We're going back, hopefully in a year or two.
Yeah.
So she wants to go this year, but we'll see. We will see about that. So, well, Janelle, I want to thank you so much for being on the show and helping me and helping other people.
Yeah.
And don't forget, Zebby and Theo are next, and I will see you next Wednesday on E360 TV.
Coming up next, Adventures with Theo and Zebby, right here on Embracing Life Again with Catherine Kaufer.
Are you ready to go, buddy? Huh? You ready? missing this one.
Oh no, I'm getting it.
Little bunch for the road. Debbie in his limo. You've taken the first step to embracing life again. Let's continue to break barriers, find joy, and dream without limits. Join us next time and let's discover inspiration through every transition together.